All right, so this is gonna be a quick one where we just stylize this A-side, article, and footer. So I'm gonna go kind of breeze through this, but essentially I'm gonna be stylizing my A-side and my article together. Now, what I think is important to note real quick before we go ahead and stylize those is that your A-side and your article together have a width that is equal to your nav and your header. So looking at this, my A-side is going to be about 20% of the width of my header, whereas my article is going to be about 80% of it. So together, the 20% of the A-side and the 80% of the article are going to equal 100% of the header. So when I stylize this, I'm going to be using widths of 20% and 80% for my A-side and for my article. My footer is going to be the same width as everything, so it's going to be an 80% width of the entire page. So I'm going to go ahead and go in here and I'm going to start stylizing my A-side. A-side is the next thing on the page, so I'm going to stylize it next. Now, the CSS, you don't necessarily need to style from top to bottom, left to right, but we're going to keep ourselves organized. So I'm going to give this a width of 20% and a height of 550 pixels, just for a generic base height. And then we're going to give it a background color of a pretty lime green, and we're going to use the RGB version. So thinking about this, I do RGB, open parentheses, and then CodePen automatically closes my parentheses. If I'm going to be doing a lime green, where am I going to have my highest value? Is it going to be the first, second, or third number? In this case, if I'm doing lime green, I'm probably going to be having a really high green value, which is the middle number, and probably lower on the red and the blue. Because the red I don't need as much and the blue I don't need as much, I really just need a lot of green. So the code we're going to use is actually just a little bit of red at 71, a lot of green at 209, and no blue at 0. And that's going to create that A side there. I'm then going to go outside the squiggly brackets, and I'm going to go ahead and create an article. So I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to create the article. Remember to spell it correctly, code, and this is going to have a width of 80% because 80% and 20% are going to equal 100% of the header. Now, I know that can be confusing because we just made our header 80%. So why aren't we making this 20% and 60%, right? 20 and 60 equaling 80. Well, when we start talking about this article and this A side, we're actually going to make them be 100% of the header width, and we're going to let the header width kind of control how big they are. So when we're talking about percentages, it's going to really depend on what we're doing in here. So I'm going to go ahead and put it at 80 for now, and I'll show you that when we get to a future lesson in the video so that you can see how it really takes up the full width of the header. We're then going to talk about the height being the same as the A side, so 550 pixels. And this time we're going to use a background color, again using RGB. And inside of here, we're going to put 0, 186, 43, which means we're going to get this like nice teal greenish color. But here's the deal. When we have RGB, there's actually a fourth value that can be added in here. Red, green, blue, and then an A for alpha. Alpha is how see-through is the color. How much transparency does it have? So inside of my parentheses after the 43, I can now add a fourth value. 1 is going to be 100% transparency, which means you can't see through it. 0 is going to be I can see totally through it and it doesn't even exist, it's invisible. And then I can do values within there like 0.1, where you're going to slightly see it, but not a lot. 0.2, you're going to see it get darker, and so on and so forth as you continue through these numbers, all the way up to 1, seeing it get darker and darker as we move through. So in this case, we're going to put it to 0.2 with it being slightly see-through so that it kind of blends in with this A-side nav and header. All right, last one here is our footer. It's going to go ahead and have a width of 80% as well, just like the header and the nav. A height of 40 pixels. Whoops. And a background color, this time going to be a hexadecimal number with a pound sign of 11FFBF, matching our nav. or our header, sorry, our header and our footer have the same color. Notice I put this one in lowercase. You can put it in lowercase, uppercase, it doesn't really matter. All right, don't forget to save this, but at this point it should go header, nav, A side, then the article, then the footer. And you can see that these aren't really doing a lot, but I also forgot my pixels right here, so I'm gonna go ahead and add my pixels in for my article. So now I should see a pretty large article, pretty large A side, but we have an issue here. They're sitting on top of each other, and we're gonna have to fix that.